أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. الله الكبير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. الله الكبير. Again, all of our missions are due to God, and we are humbled here again today. And so, without further ado, I'm going to just talk about being appreciative of what we have and make sure that we are grateful to God for giving us these opportunities that He gives us and the provision that He provides for us. So that's all I want to talk about today. And so, and we just look at ourselves. So we wake up in the morning, and the mere fact that we wake up in the morning, and as I said that we should make sure that we bear witness when we wake up in the morning. And just before us, we say our prayers, that there is no other God except God. Okay, so do that a couple of times, and so we're now in position to thank the provider of this blessing. The blessing is that our test is not over yet. So we get another opportunity to better ourselves, to get closer to God. So we should be grateful for that God has provided for us. Okay. So then we realize that now that we are up, we are in the position to do other things. Then we go to wash, which is a blessing from God. It's an act of worship, and He has told us how to do it, and we do exactly what He told us how to do it. No questions asked. Okay? So we do that. We go to the toilet, and you open up the faucet, and the water is too cold. First of all, you have water. So you're grateful to God for having water. 2.7 billion people in this world do not have water. The population just passed 8 billion. Okay, so there are more than 8 billion people living in this world. And out of that statistics of 3-4 years ago, 2.7, it's probably 3 billion. Okay. 3 billion people do not have access to water. Okay. You go there and you open up the faucet and cold water comes. You don't like the cold water. Okay. It's getting cold right now. You don't like the cold water. So you try to mix it with hot water. Open up the faucet. The hot water is there. It's another source of provision that God has provided for us. And it actually needs for us to be grateful to God for that provision. Okay? So then we go and open up the refrigerator. After our prayers, we go and open up the refrigerator. There is food in there for us. Okay? And then again, who provides the food? God is the one who provides the food. Well, we'll go and buy it. Of course, we buy it. But who provides you that provision, that strength that you are actually able to do that? Now, furthermore, just because you have the money, it does not guarantee that the food is available at the supermarket. During this pandemic, there were a lot of shelves were empty because the transportation was halted. There was no commerce because of the pandemic. So you didn't have the provisions that you had. Even though you had the money, you could not buy because it doesn't exist. Okay. So the provider of the money and the provision itself is God. So we have to be grateful to Him for that. Okay. So again, I go back. And you wake up, and you're not sick that day. You don't have a cold. There are all these viruses going around right now. Okay, you have the SRV, you have the flu, and you have COVID. They're all going around. Okay, these three are now at the top, and people have even forgotten about the common cold. Okay, you don't even hear people mentioning common cold because a lot of people catch common cold. Okay, so we should be grateful to Him for not having those viruses that a lot of people do have. Okay, so we've gone like halfway. Okay, and the point is that this halfway that has taken us to this stage, okay, and we're unaware of it. We're not even thanking God for it. Okay. And anyway, so you open up the refrigerator. Your refrigerator is working because there is electricity. Okay. There is no war, so your power plants are working. They are not under bombardment of airplanes and missiles. So you have that. Then you say, oh, maybe it's a little bit cold, so I'm going to turn up the heat a little bit. Okay? And you turn up the heat. And there's more heat coming into your building, so you feel more comfortable. Okay? That heat is not just created by itself. Okay? That heat, it requires several different sources of power to create that heat for you. And those are available. Okay? They don't have to be available. There are a lot of people who want to live in the cold of the winter. There are a lot of homeless people. They don't have any shelters. They don't have any heat. Okay, but you do. Question is, are we grateful enough to God for that provision? Are we grateful to God for the ability to buy that provision? When the bill comes in, you are able to pay that bill. The electricity and the water and the sewer and everything, you are able to pay that. You go in there and you go to toilet and you flush it. You don't even think about it. This whole system that was created is so clean. Then you don't have to worry about it. You don't have septic tanks or just a hole in the ground that has to be flushed out and put some other place. You don't have to do that. You're not worried about that because there is a sewage treatment plant someplace. Goes in there and it treats the sewage. We're not even thinking about it. Okay? And God says, if you are not grateful enough, I'm going to take this away from you and give it to somebody else, and they are not going to be like you. They are going to be grateful. Okay? These are the things that we have to be grateful to God for. Our daily living. We exist in this world. Everything that we do is due to God and no one else. It's because of Him that we have these luxuries. These are luxuries, my friends. Having running hot and cold water is a luxury. People don't have that. People don't even have access to drinking water. Okay, clean drinking water. And if we do not care about it, we are unaware of it for some reason, for arrogance or for forgetfulness or whatever it is, we have to turn around and say, look, I am grateful for having these opportunities. And these opportunities are not there by accident or just because we are lucky. They could be taken away. Some of the rivers are drying out. Mississippi is actually, the water level is receding. Okay? Remember that last verse in chapter 67? Al-Mulk, the kingship? If your water sinks into the ground, who is going to provide you with fresh water? And this is happening. The water is sinking into the ground. And then what we do is we have riverboat gambling. So we are abusing God's system. We are not grateful to Him enough. We don't see it. We take it for granted. That somehow this is supposed to be here. That when I open up the refrigerator is full of provision, and it keeps it at a low temperature, at 0 degrees Fahrenheit in the freezer, and at about 38 degrees inside the refrigerator, or 32 degrees or whatever it is. 32 is going to freeze, okay, so it's about 38 degrees. So it doesn't freeze, but it keeps it cold enough for your food not too hot. Okay. So are we grateful enough when we open up the refrigerator? Open up and you have eggs, fresh eggs. You have meat in there. You have all kinds of other kinds of meat, processed meat. You have all kinds of vegetables, fruits. They're in there, and they're fresh. And you eat them. And somehow that system works. And sometimes they don't work. Sometimes something happens. Something happens to your hot water system. Your whole day is ruined. Because you don't have hot water. Okay? So you call the plumber, you call this and that and the others, okay, and God forbid if it's a weekend. So that day, it's supposed to be a lesson to us that this should not be taken for granted. If you're waking up with sore throat, the onset of a cold, right? But you didn't. Somehow you avoided that. And somehow it was sort of pushed away from you. But who did it? God did it. So you wake up with nothing, no problems. Okay? As I said, God is giving you another chance. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee for these things. Okay? Some people, as I said, they went to bed and never woke up this morning. They died. A lot of people die in their sleep. Okay? So that fact that we are getting up and we are healthy, as I said, we have no sore throat, okay? That should be a source for us for gratitude to God. Okay? And then the rest of the stuff comes throughout the day. And then you want to go someplace, you go into your car, you get into your car, and you turn on the ignition, and the ignition comes on. There's nothing wrong with it. And then you go someplace, you drive around, and you go to the grocery store, and you do all kinds of stuff. And if you don't find something, you complain and moan and groan that, oh, they didn't have this. Did you see that today? Okay. There's no guarantee for that. If there is a drought or something, there's nothing in there. There won't be anything in there. If there are no roads that can actually bring that provision to you, then there's no guarantee for that. Why there should be a road? There are some bridges that connect in the thing, and people are talking about the infrastructure is decaying and things. Okay, and that's exactly for this, because if those infrastructures did not exist, we would not have the luxuries that we have. And every one of these is a source of gratefulness for us. It should be something that gives us a hint that, look, you have to be grateful for this. Okay. There's a lot of money in the world. There's a lot of provision that God has provided for everybody. He hasn't forgotten about the poor people and this and the others. Okay. The GDP of the world is $126 trillion. Okay. You divide that by this 8 billion that's living in it. This means man, woman, and child. Nobody left out. It's about $17,500 a year per man, woman, and child. Everybody. But somehow God has given more of that provision to some people. And that's a test. Okay? I remember 10 people or something like that in the United States. They're actually richer than Canada. They have more money than the Canadian government GDP. Okay, can you imagine that? So what is the gratefulness for that? So that means that nobody's forgotten. The system that we have, that people are suffering and people are hungry and people have no access to water and this and that, the others, okay, it's man-made. It's not God-made. $17,500 per man, woman, and child in the world. You'll never go hungry. You'll never starve to death. You have access to everything. Okay? And so we see these things, these natural laws that God is telling us about, that we have to follow in order to be successful. Give your charity, give your zakat, give your khums, give all of these things. It says give, give, give. A tree gives, gives, gives. A cow gives, gives, gives. Doesn't ask for anything. Okay? This during the during the Halloween, what we had was, we had all these pumpkins. Okay? You know what they do with those pumpkins? They feed it to the animals. And they eat it. But just doing that will produce milk and meat and all kinds of stuff. And it just doesn't take much to take care of these things, because they're sort of self-sustaining. So all these livestock and everything, they eat grass and everything that you see around here that nobody wants, nobody eats. You think that it has no nutritional value, but it obviously does. It sustains those animals. And we're never grateful enough for that. And that is the problem that we have. So we should wake up. Okay? And so just look around us and see what is going on. Just ourselves. Forget about everybody else. What other people do, it's not our business. We have to worry about ourselves. Okay? All of these things that happening to us every day, and we are unaware of it, has to be a source of gratitude to God and no one else. Yeah, because He's the one who's produced it for us. And He's the one who sustains it for us. So all the provisions that we have. Okay, as I said, otherwise, that equation of $17,500 is going to be changing. going to go from top to the bottom if you're not grateful enough. So this is just, food for thought from the scripture. And so we have to be careful with this. And that's why God says that, that's why he says so many things. This is I provided for you, this, over and over in the world. To remind us, because we forget, we are not careful enough. And the things that are basically under our nose, we just refuse to see it or don't see it. And then we just go about our business. And we never come to the recognition of the fact that these are not by accident. They're really not supposed to be here, but they are here. And we have to accordingly be grateful to the source of the provision, who's God. And God alone, no one else. Okay, I'm going to stop here and we'll finish this unit. Allah Kabir.